Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started. This is Jim Nowakowski, Interline Creative Group. I see the room is filling up. Thank you so much. I see Jody. Jody has a question. Hello, Jody Wall is here. Welcome, Jody. See you. Everybody's welcoming me. That's good. Welcome, everybody. Glad you're here. This is staying in front of your customers in a COVID-19 digital environment. My name is Jim Nowakowski, and I'm honored to present to you today in this very disturbing world that we live in. This is copyright material. However, if you send me an email afterwards, to I'll be happy to actually share it with you in a PDF file. So just send me an email when we're done, and I'll get it over to you. Let's see. So next one. This is an AIA course. AIA courses are really approved by the AIA, and I know there's plenty of architects in the audience because I saw you register. So if you have trouble getting your credentials when this is over, just drop us a line. We'll be happy to get you your certificates and everything else. This is also IDCEC approved and NKBA approved. Both of these organizations are fine organizations, and this course has been approved for presentation to you today by these organizations. Why? Because like you, everyone really wants to know how to navigate in this COVID environment. So what we have here basically is a course description. This is what you signed up for. We're going to be examining your value in this COVID environment because COVID-19, this is going to surprise you. It changed everything, right? But what we hope to do when we're done with this is give you a better understanding of what you have to do and some of the tools you have available for you to navigate this very, very difficult environment. Very important to have tools that you can do this with. When we're done, and we have an hour together, thank you so much. When we're done, we're going to review the course basics. You're going to determine your value. We're going to emphasize your differentiation. And we're going to review the tactics on ways you can use to stay in front of your customers in a digital environment that's infected, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, infected with this COVID-19 disease. We hate disease, don't we? I like to start everything out with a story. This is a revised course. This was my most popular course done pre-COVID, but what I did because of COVID is I revised it, and some of the things that don't change are the stories. If you're familiar with the Rorschach test, this is a test that I use to show people that start to work here at Interline Creative Group. And I ask them to describe what they see in it. And in a Rorschach test, that's basically ink blots. And normally what they say is they see a wedding, they see a couple of guys laughing, enjoying themselves, enjoying their cutty. At Christmas time, we had an intern, young lady named Tiffany, who saw this. She was talking about it. And inevitably, when people look at this, they always say that guy, the younger guy on the left, looks like Robert Redford. But Tiffany didn't say that. She didn't say that looked like Robert Redford after her narrative. And I said, well, does that guy look like Robert Redford? And Tiffany said, who is Robert Redford? At that moment in time, I knew something had changed. Either I had changed, the world had changed, or something dreadfully happened because I thought for sure everybody who knew who Robert Redford was. Now, Tiffany, being a millennial, came in the next day and said, as she walked in, she says, I think I'd like to see Jeremiah Johnson. Now, for those of you who know who Robert Redford is, and Jeremiah Johnson is one of his famous movies, what Tiffany had done is what she always does, is she used her phone to research Robert Redford, find out what he did, how he did it, whatever. And it's the way we did this now. The difference is that Mr. COVID-19 has changed all that. Let me put it bluntly. Who cares who Robert Redford is? And who cares if you know who Robert Redford is? Seriously, that's what this COVID-19 has done to all of us. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And if you're interested in reading the entire blog, simply go to Google and type in Robert Redford Rorschach. And the whole story will come up, which is a blog. By the way, when you can type into Google Robert Redford Rorschach, I could say that 10 times, but I'm not going to, and get #1 listing in Google, you're doing good SEO. So the 5 things you really have to understand, 4 or 5 things you have to understand, that you live in the exabyte world. You did that before COVID. And now you live in an exabyte world that's infected with COVID-19. Whatever that means, we're going to talk about that. So what are you selling? Before COVID, you answered that one way. Post-COVID, you answered it another way. That's what I'm going to ask you to be doing, is thinking about pre and post-COVID. How do you sell what you're selling? Who buys what you're selling? And if you say post-COVID, what are you selling? The answer for many of us is not much. How do people buy what you're selling has changed because of the virus. And does anyone else sell what you're selling? Well, if nobody's buying what I'm selling, are they buying it somewhere else? Or are they buying something else? Because this chart from Nielsen, and I just got this yesterday, and hence I put it into this presentation, is absolutely stunning. Look at the second row from the left. New online since COVID-19. I want you to think about this. Oh, Jim, I don't do e-commerce. I don't care. I don't care you don't do e-commerce. I'm telling you to wash your mind of everything you've done or think you're going to do or got to do, and look at this statistic. 27% of people who have never shopped online before COVID are now shopping online. That in itself is a tell. Why? I heard a major manufacturer the other day. This is very important. I heard a major manufacturer the other day say, point blank to me, we have to be thinking about the way our manufacturer reps are structured. We may not need manufacturer reps going forward. When he said that, I almost dropped my phone, although I didn't. And I could have said, what the heck is he talking about? But I knew exactly what he's talking about. He's talking about a changed world. He's talking about how you and I and everyone in the audience has to function now with this COVID thing over us, because it's changed everything. Mr. COVID has changed everything. It's turned the world. You've heard this. You researched this. It's upside down. Something's happened. Something profound has happened. It changed everything. Or put it more accurately, this is more accurate, by the way. The reaction of governments has changed everything. Hasn't it? Hasn't it? I heard yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday, the World Health Organization came out with this profound statement. You ready? Some of you may have heard this. Lockdowns is not the primary way to deal with this virus. Should I repeat that? Lockdowns are not the primary way to deal with the virus, according to the World Health Organization yesterday. May I ask you a serious question? What the heck has been going on? You see what I'm saying? It's not the virus. It's the reaction to the virus. I used to show this pre-COVID. This is a very famous ad by McGraw-Hill, and they would run it whenever there's a recession. Some people will argue correctly that there's a depression going on in certain industries. Other people are so busy they can't keep up. I was talking to a manufacturer the other day, a maker, they're part of the Vinyl Institute. They make resins that make plastics. Quote, business is booming. When's the last time you heard that? Can you say that about your own business? Business is booming. If you can say that about your business, my applause. I applaud you. If you can't say that about your business, ask yourself, why are manufacture of resins booming? Well, it's pretty obvious, right? Plexiglass. Everybody's using plexiglass now to distance and so on. McGraw-Hill would run this ad. It's called The Old Man in the Chair. I don't know who you are. I don't know your company. I don't know your blah, blah, blah. Because in a recession or a depression, people pull back on marketing. Big mistake. Big mistake. But in a virus-infected world, it may not be a mistake. It may not be, because what this guy is saying in the chair is that if you expect me to buy from you, I have to get to know you. Getting to know you. This is where I break out into song. I'm not going to do it. But in the pre-COVID world, what was happening there is it changed. It became a mobile device, right? Everybody's now digital. Digital. And then it came along this guy, and who cares who you are? Who cares about your company? Everybody is afraid. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we face. We face fear. This is what this little guy brought us, is a fear. And what we have to do is understand that. How many customers do you have? I used to ask this in the pre-COVID live presentations I did. Inevitably, someone in the audience would raise their hand, some smarty pants, and say, not enough. And we'd all laugh and we'd talk about it. How many do you want? This is all about strategic planning, right? And it's important to have these long-term, short-term goals. You have to have them, right? But in the virus-infected world, who cares? Who cares? If you have one customer, we did an email blast for a client the other day, brand new client that came to us post-COVID. I'm going to tell you about some stories as I go through here, right? This is a manufacturer of components. We did an email blast through a media outlet, and I put a form on there. Why did I put a form on there? Because I'm a direct mail guy and I have to have feedback. I always want call to action feedback. Within 2 hours of the deployment, he had 12 people fill out that form, 12 people to pursue. If he closes 2 of those people, the blast paid for itself. I was told that I don't need a form, that the media outlet would provide me anybody who hit that website, who hit the website that we were offering the offer, which was a video, right? I put in the form because I don't trust anybody. I never trusted anybody before COVID, and I still don't trust anybody now. I have to have a feedback mechanism because, for example, if I just buy the media outlets list, who's to say when that guy gets it and he forwards it to someone else that's not on their list, and I don't know who that is? How is he going to get in touch with me? The basics that we're going to talk about today, no matter what you think about this virus, have not changed. What has changed is the fear you have to overcome because of this little guy. And I call him a little guy because I can't even see him. Pretend you're a customer for a moment. How often are people contacting you nowadays? The only calls I get now are for the election coming up. I get deluged in the evening, and thank God for phone blocking, right? Because they're calling all the time. Or I get a knock on the door because of the hailstorm that came by, and some guy wants to give me a new roof and siding, even though I have no damage. Don't worry, Jim, the insurance will cover it. That's really, these are, what I'm saying is that ask yourself how often you're contacted by people, or how often you're contacting people. Because who cares? If you're in a virus-infected world and you think the world's coming to an end, who cares? You should care. What we're going to talk about today, you remember this? Do you remember when the virus first hit in March? Do you remember it? I remember it. It's, right? Toilet paper. Who would have thought? Toilet paper would become not a commodity, but a needed value. That's what you're talking about, right? If everybody can get it, it's a commodity. But if everybody can't get it, suddenly it's worth money. You had people on eBay selling rolls of toilet paper that they would confiscate. Price gouging too, right? Right? And now what? You can find it. You couldn't find yeast because people demanded it. There's lessons here for all of us who are in business. Nobody wanted what we were selling, right? Why? Because who cares? The virus is here. I'm afraid. I used to say this pre-COVID. It's not about you, ladies and gentlemen. It's about them. It's about your customers, right? But that's not true anymore because of this little virus, this jerk, this son of a gun. Make them care, but not about me. That's what he should be saying. You want people to care? Make them care. Make them care about you. Inject yourself now into this. How do you differentiate? We're going to talk about that in a minute. If everybody's doing the same thing, if everybody, right, is doing the same thing, how do you differentiate? Well, what's everybody doing now? What's everybody doing now? Everybody is afraid. Well, how do you differentiate them? Be unafraid. Well, Jim, what are you saying? Be reckless? Absolutely not. I'm saying value is what your customer perceives, right? And right now, no matter I looked at some of you in the audience. You are some of the greatest architects, designers, showrooms, consultants, I see manufacturers in the audience. You make great products, but if nobody cares about them, you have to you have to reconnect with them. You have to overcome their fear. And that's really what you have to do. And the example I gave pre-COVID was a security light. Security lights, have features, functions, benefits, they have a range, yada, 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 right? But that's not what people were buying. They were buying security. They were buying the intangible. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what you're fighting. That's your value. It's intangible. It always was. But right now, this goofy virus, this crazy virus, by the way, which is still not understood. And by the way, which if the World Health Organization is changing their mind, almost daily or monthly, you have to be the one that decides this. I'm going to show you a slide in a moment that talks about that. But your value has always been intangible, always. You may think, well, Jim, I'm an architect, I design. It's you who design. Indira, you're in the audience. You're my Canadian architect friend, right? Your value is you. It's you. I'll give you a good example. Air, right? It's necessary, and you're not going to pay me for the air you breathe, but this virus who infected people and they had to go on, some of them on ventilators. What they don't, and now we're all wearing masks, and masks, if you do your research, can actually inhibit your air breathing sometimes, right? Especially if you're coughing into your mask and recirculating what you're coughing, right? But wait a minute, we're helping by saving other people. The virus has made everything limited. Think about this. COVID-19 has put a limit, not just on air, on everything we have, on our time. Suddenly, our time, which is the most precious commodity in the world, it seems like, oh my God, we have no time. That employee you had, the other day took a trip to a local, to the next state for one day. And it was the greatest thing in the world, just to take his family out there. Why is that? Because time is so precious now. Ladies and gentlemen, I got news for you. It was always precious. If you've been wasting your time before COVID, you're not going to do anything about it post-COVID. You should never waste time. What makes you unique? What are you doing that your competitor is not doing? What does your competitor do that you don't do? These questions pre-COVID were always very important, right? And these are even more difficult to ask because if you're saying, Jim, I'm not doing anything unique. The architecture field, for example, has been devastated. We have a new blog series on our website, Navigating Sales and Marketing in COVID-19 Environment. We talk specifically about architecture and how it's been ravaged because construction, everything ground to a halt. And now, well, Jim, aren't we opening up now? Well, some are and some are not. Well, what about home building? It's booming, right? Where? And who's booming? Who's booming that? And how often do you need an architect to put in a bathtub? You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying that you don't need an architect to put in a bathtub. I'm saying that suggests that an architect has to be thinking differently if he's going to use that as an opportunity. Because this scum, has changed everything. It changes the way we think, and we cannot ignore it, and yet we have to ignore it. We have to take control of it, right? I have a saying in my office. I've been in business 30 years. And I was there, as it started, everything started to become digitized. And one of my rules for my programmers and my people that work for me is very simple. You either control the software or the software controls you. I have accountants reaching out to me saying, let me be your accountant. And all they did, I used to fire accountants like crazy. You know why? Because they would want to put me into a software program. You know how we do our accounting here at Interline Group? In Excel files. Excel files. I did the programming to keep timesheets, to do all that. And then we hire the accountant to basically, sort it out. That's worth the money to me because I couldn't bend an accounting program to match my needs for my clients. Do you bend to the will of the software? Or do you make the software bend to your will? Do you bend to the will of the virus? Or do you bend the virus to your will, right? It's a germ. It's a virus. John Donne, who lived, many, many, many years ago, he wrote Meditations. He's a great English poet. You should read him, John Donne. What will kill a man if not a vapor? They knew about vapors in the time of Shakespeare, right? It's part of life. Vapors are part of life, but you don't run from it. You have to overcome that because that's what your customers are looking for you. Value is perception, and perception is emotion. And if everybody's perception of this goofy scum virus is that, oh my God, it's going to kill me. And ladies and gentlemen, I respect that. I respect that. I put a mask on when I go to the store because it's basically they won't let me shop if I don't have a mask on. I get it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an emotional reaction to ungrounded fear. They never quote the statistics on how many survived, do they? They only talk about death. And if death is all you think about, who wants to die? I don't want to die. You don't want to die. But if that's all you think about, you're never going to walk out of your door. Like food. Oh, geez, I'm hungry. I'm really hungry. Have you ever really been hungry? There's a great movie called Hombre with Paul Newman. It's an old Western. They're in the stagecoach. The Indian agent has stolen all the money. And his wife was talking about the Indians, how they walk around the reservation. Stunning examples of manhood, right? But then she says they eat dog. When they find a dog and they kill a dog, they will eat a dog. And Paul Newman, who was brought up by the Apache, is also a white guy, right? And he went to town, sold his house. He's going back to the reservation. He looks at the woman and he goes, have you ever been hungry? The woman goes, I don't care how hungry I was. I would never eat a dog. He looks at her and said, you'd not only eat the dog if you were really hungry, you would fight for the bones. Ladies and gentlemen, that's an example of what do we mean by safety. What do we mean by safety? Here's what we mean. In the old days, if you take away a brand, people find replacement. Something will do, right? And they used to teach us pre-COVID, if you take away value, people will start protesting. No, I want that. I want my Coca-Cola. I don't want Pepsi. You remember that? You remember that? I remember that. That's been gone for the last 6 to 8 months. People don't care about brands anymore. They care, what do they care about? Replacement. They just want it when they want it. Now that's changing as we open up, and that's why you have to start thinking about this now. Because as we open up, you have to have a strategy. So, what are people protesting about these days? Safety. I'm tired of this. I want to do something. There's riots, right? I mean, there's protests. It's an election year. Everybody's going crazy. How do you fit that? Where do you change You have to change the conversation. You have to change the conversation because they're not going to change it. And if people are afraid, right, how do you help them erase their fear? How do you refocus these people? That's what you have to do. Well, you do it with your services, which are intangible. Sometimes you have exclusive, but Jim, they're not buying any services yet. How do you know that? How do you know that? This thing happened in March. This is what? November, almost October. It's almost November. This is October. We have found new business in this climate by not giving up, by being resilient, by being agile, by changing on the dime. You have an advantage. I don't see a lot of big companies in the audience. The smaller company you are, like a PT boat, you can change your direction. Big companies have a hard time changing it. Look what happened today, right, this morning, when Johnson & Johnson, and they had their first, right, person who got ill with the vaccine they're testing. One got ill. The stock dropped tremendously. This is a reactive audience, right? You know how many people get ill on any trial of any drug? You know those little things you get when you buy the drug or you get a prescription and it's that long mouse type, 18 pages folded down 17 times, right? You know that? If you read that, and I happen to read that sometimes, you will see there absolutely the side effects of any drug you take. And that includes the coffee I'm on now. Can you tell it's in my voice? Where's your value? Where is your value? If someone is trying to kill you, you don't have the option of averting your eyes or changing the subject. You're forced to deal with the person's behavior. The experience, in the end, it ends certain illusions, right? The world is not how you want it to be, ladies and gentlemen. The world is how it is. This is from Michael Crichton, State of Fear. The world is not how you want it to be. It never was. Pre-COVID, it never was. This COVID, the blessing of COVID, is that it has exposed everything for what it is. The essence, what we're looking for, is driving for the value, the truth of who we are and what we are. And that requires differentiation. Your value is your differentiation. If everybody is looking the same, if toilet paper is toilet paper is toilet paper, suddenly I have to differentiate. And right now, the differentiating factor, ladies and gentlemen, is not showing fear. Showing respect, but not showing fear. You have to be fearless. Because if everyone else is afraid and I'm afraid, who needs me? Who needs me? In my first meeting with a client since COVID happened a couple months ago, because there's not, let's face it, there's not a lot of that going on, right? But the client said, would you mind coming over for a physical meeting? I said, absolutely not. I'll be there. I'll wear 5 masks, whatever you want. No, 1 will do. I went out, I bought a thermometer. When I walked in, I took my temperature. He was delighted, right? You can read about this on my blog. 2 hours I sat there, totally uncomfortable with a mask, right? 5 minutes before the meeting ended, he comes over and says, if you sit at the end of the table, I didn't know it was ending in 5 minutes. If you sit at the end of the table, you can take your mask off. I said, no, I'm good. And I'm sweating. My eyeglasses are fogging up. It was the most uncomfortable feeling in the world. And I'm thinking to myself, I get it. It's fear. I get it. Respect. I get it. This is one of our best clients nowadays. Today, it's one of our best clients. I've been back once to do a video at the location, but I love this client. You know why? Because he has respect for the virus, he has a respect for his people, but he also understands business. You can't stop driving for business. There's 3 kinds of people in the world. People who make things happen, people who watch things happen, and people who wonder what happened. Jim Lovell, the commander of Apollo 13, said that. By the way, Machiavelli said this in 1513 as well. There's 3 kinds of people, 3 types of brains. But let's deal with Jim Lovell for now. People who make things happen, people who watch what happens, and people who wonder what happens. Which one are you? You add value when you give. You talk about value. You give. You're not a taker, you're a giver. Value added means you're adding a higher value to what you do. If everyone is, one of the great things that when you do interview and research like we do, is you hear all sorts of stuff, right? One of the best things I heard, I'm going to share this with you, from a client who was already digital pre-COVID and then became really digital afterwards, but they already have many plants in the United States. They were communicating digitally, pre-COVID, and all the COVID did is make them just continue doing what they're doing. They did not miss a beat. Many companies missed a beat, but they did not miss a beat. You know what's funny? You know what the client told me? That what they use now when they're virtual meetings and stuff like that? This is what she said. We use it for chit-chat. And I said, what do you mean, chit-chat? She goes, chit-chat. There's nothing pressing in the project or the job, whatever. There's nothing pressing. We just call each other to chit-chat. What do you think that means? That means Mr. COVID, that scum, that creature, what he did is force us to understand we are social animals. We need each other. Not just to sell stuff, but we need each other. And that has always been part of the sales acumen, isn't it? It's not about you, ladies and gentlemen. It's about them, and it's your reaction to them as they react to it. You see how complicated it gets because of that COVID-19? It's not about you anymore. It's always been about them, but what's standing in the way between you and them is that I want to say a bad word now, and I'm not going to do it. Okay. That hasn't changed anything. You live in a digital environment, right? This is highly competitive. Look at the bottom graph. This is the number of people, going on social media, which, by the way, is a blessing and a curse. We're not going to. I have another course on that. But if you look at what's happening digitally around the world, you could see that was 2019 and this is 2020. It hasn't changed that much. It's gone up a little bit. But as you saw in the primary slide, what they're using the digital for is different, which is what we're going to talk about. This is from McKinsey and Company. It's a consulting firm. Some like them, some don't like them. But I wanted to share this with you because this is common in any research you do. You could go on the internet and Google and say, well, how do I cope with COVID-19? You're going to see a chart like this in one way, shape, or another. You have to have resolve, resilience, return, reimagine, and reform, the 5 R's, right? Reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's probably where some guy taught about that. And these are all very important, but if you really think about these words, what they really mean is get your butts going. Get off of there and start trying stuff. Be resolved. Be resilient. I'm going to blog about this shortly too, because I attended a Gallup on resilience, which was an eye-opener, whatever that means. Okay? Get back to doing things. Get back to doing things. That's the first part of it. Do I have any questions? Let's see. I'm going to take a moment, take a glass of coffee, cup of coffee. My audience is great. Good to see everybody. Indira, you're there. Good to see you. Wendy. Shannon, nice to see you. Great. Wendy, good to see you. These are people I know, and they've been in my webinars before. I hope you're doing well. Please use the question box if you got questions. We're going to continue now. These tactics have not changed. Since COVID arrived, these tactics have not changed, but they have. Well, Jim, that's a contradiction. You just said they didn't change, and now you're saying they did change. I'm saying the tactics haven't changed. The execution of the tactics have changed. And we're going to talk about these. Advertising. Newsletters. Jim, why would I send a newsletter if nobody's hiring me? You have to stay engaged. You, ladies and gentlemen, have to control the conversation. If you go to anybody's website today, and some of you are designers, and some of you are architects, and some of you are showroom people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you go to websites today, the first thing you see is what? A COVID-19 update or something like that. Go to any manufacturer. Who cares? I get it. I'm part of the COVID-19 environment. But what are you doing to stay in front of your customers with your information, with your value? Your value. Are you telling your customers how you are actually taking precautions, not only to protect them, but to protect yourself? Are you showing what people are doing in this COVID-19 environment? I heard great stories from some of the people in the audience about how they were relentless in pursuing projects even in the environment, how they were adapting and changing to cope. These are inspiring stories. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're still standing now, today, in business, you are an inspiring story. Get out there and tell people about it. You're back. Well, Jim, the state I work in is still locked down. Not for long. It's going to change. The election will come and go. People will start doing business, or something else will happen. And if something else happened, and it's the something else that I'm thinking about right now, quite honestly, no, but who cares then, right? But that's not going to happen. We are resilient in business. So whatever you were doing post-COVID, do pre-COVID, do it post-COVID. We tried to make, when we were locked down in March, this is the first thing we did. We sent out a 3D mailing. I love 3D mailings. I bought a bag of marbles, and we did this to all our clients. All our clients, right? And a few prospects, but our clients, because our clients stopped. And we didn't want to stop. We made an internal determination within our own company to say, we are not stopping. We could have stopped, but we didn't. We said, we're coming to the office. We're an essential business. Marketing is essential. We also sell soap. Feel like everyone lost their marbles. This was in March, right? That's the outer envelope. Important information, marble information. The guy opened it up, the woman opened it up. Inside was a custom two-sided panel. Fire engineering was replaced by plumbing products, was replaced by whatever the client was selling, HVAC equipment. And on the back was a list of our services that we offer people. Very simple in the bag of marbles, right? We planned this, we sent it out, we were so excited. The phone never rang. Curious, the phone never rang. A couple of weeks after we mailed it, I called the clients. Did you get our mailing? They go, what mailing? Now, if you know anything about mailing, we already had our undeliverables returned to us. And we said to ourselves, what mailing? Oh! Then it dawned on us. The reaction to that scum, COVID-19, is they stopped going to the office. So our mailing went to the office, which they had stopped going to, and it was sitting in the damn mailroom, right? So I said, when you go back to the office, whenever that is, right, you'll look on your desk, you'll see our mailing. Would you want me to send it to your home? Some people said, well, sure. And they gave me their home address. Others said, are you kidding me? Never. No, I'm kidding. But I engaged in the conversation. They said, what was the mailing about? I said, about losing your marbles. And they busted out, every one of them busted out laughing. Engagement. And they said, this is everybody was getting killed. I said, I understand. But, just keep us in mind. Slowly but surely, business by April and May started to turn a little bit. A project here, a project there. Don't let this thing stop you. You have an audience. You have some people who will see your message, some people who will convert to readers, and some people who will inquire, right? That mailing, Jim, why are you telling me that? That sounds like a failure. It wasn't a failure. You know why it wasn't a failure? Because it produced engagement. I got in front of the client and showed them I am not afraid. I have not lost my marbles. It didn't change the fact that they didn't hire us more for a couple of months. Nevertheless, miracles started to happen. We got an email from a major eco-architect based in Malaysia. And he said, have you updated your 8 books? And I said, no, I haven't. I met him. Now, I found out subsequently, I ran into this guy at the AIA show in Miami. And he had come to our booth when we were packing up, and I gave him a set of my pamphlets, right? Which, by the way, you can ask for at the end. I'll show you how to get them. He asked for these, and he asked if I've updated them, and I communicated them by email. And I said, no, I didn't. Why are you asking? Now, this was in May or June, probably May. And he goes, because I'm thinking I want to come to the United States and offer my services. So I looked him up, and I'm saying, this guy's a player. I saw his Harvard, he's written books, lots of books. He's a major player, right? He's given lectures at Harvard on ecology and architecture. Really a interesting guy. So we communicated, and I said, let me help you. I'm going to sign an agreement with him coming up to help him come to the United States. Okay, of course, after the election. But he's forward thinking. He realizes there's opportunities everywhere for what he's talking about. You see, you never know what's going to happen. Most of the people in the audience will understand who Newton is, right? One of Newton's laws, for every action there's a reaction, is a business law. For every action you do, there's a reaction. And the reaction in business is sometimes, no, I'm not going to the office anymore. I'm working from home. That's a reaction to an action, right? Not every reaction to the action is a positive reaction. In direct mail, I learned many, many years ago, there's only a yes or a no, a 1 or a 0. That's it. There's no gray. It's 1 or 0, yes or no. And the sale begins, ladies and gentlemen, when the customer says no. That's when opportunity is knocking. That's when opportunity is knocking. inspire people, redefine advertising. People today, like media outlets, are crashing and burning. They don't know what to do because no one's buying advertising. We're seeing the demise of print advertising as I speak. We used to get 1,000 magazines a month, 1,000, right? In here, in our offices. Not anymore. And the ones we get are shrinking. It's like the Incredible Shrinking Man or The Fly. I'm shrinking. Change the definition of advertising. The virus has given us the opportunity to change everything. So change it. Don't if the thing don't work, drop it. Do something else. Ask questions. When's the last time you talked to your customers? When's the last time you had a little, Zoom meeting with 4 people and talked to them? I'm telling you another thing. One of the things that has happened because of the virus is I'm actually able to see people I would have never seen in my lifetime. Ever. Ever. Kenneth Cole, a high-end designer, right? He's holding a webinar, right, on design and fashion in this COVID-19 world and how everybody's going crazy and how you're actually harming your mental health. And I said when I first saw the advertisement, what the hell does Kenneth Cole know about mental health? He's very involved in it. I hope I got his name right. I hope that's the guy I'm thinking of. I think it is. Anyway, it was a high-end designer, and there he was for an hour talking about how COVID is harming people. Yesterday, the World Health says lockdowns are hurting people mentally. You or I or anybody in this audience could have told him that in March. That if you stop people from socializing, you're going to hurt them. You're going to hurt them. So ready, aim, fire. Phone. Ladies and gentlemen, your voice, my voice is virus free. I know some of you, I'm kidding. I was going to say some of you are wearing a mask now because you think I've got the virus. Well, that's another story. Phones are virus free. Talk to people. Call them constantly. Don't be obnoxious, but things are changing all the time. And it's virus free. They have nothing to lose by talking to you. Nothing except time. So make the time worthwhile. Don't waste their time. Right? Google losing a pitch. When we're done today, just go to Google, type in losing a pitch. You'll see a blog that I wrote pre-COVID on 7 things to do when you lose a pitch. Ladies and gentlemen, that's one of the most successful blogs. Well, Jim, has any business come to you from that? I guarantee you some business has come to me that I don't even know about yet. Because people who read that are lawyers, people who read that are associations, manufacturers, because everybody today is losing a pitch. I lose pitches every day, but I know, in phone calls in telemarketing, they have what they call a win-to-loss ratio. So that means if you're a telemarketer, you need 20 calls to get the one, or you need 50 calls before you get one. That's the win-to-loss ratio. That win-to-loss ratio, because of the virus, has exploded. Sometimes you need 100 calls before you get one. Sometimes you get it on the first dial. You don't know. But you have to stay in touch with people. You have to stay in touch. Call a radio program. People are, respond to something. Don't just sit there. And if you haven't guessed it by now, paint a picture with your voice. Paint a picture with your voice. Call back no matter what. If people leave you, I got a message Saturday on my cell phone from some Marriott company wanting to order soap, right? I looked at it, and then once I heard the message, I realized it was not a crank call because that's one of our businesses. He had called the office and it went to automated mail, and they forwarded it to my cell phone because we're all connected now, right? We dropped all our hard lines and we're all on the internet phone, so it does this. It's the magic of the internet. And I forgot to do it yesterday because I was tied up preparing for this and other sessions and presentations we have. And I realized, I woke up this morning saying, oh, nuts, I forgot to send that through. And the order's already taken care of, right? But there's 2 Jims in my office, and that was to Jim. And for whatever reason, it came to my phone. Call back no matter what. Stay on the internet, right? Your website, I'm going to repeat this. I repeat this in every one of my webinars. Some of you have been in with me before, know what I'm going to say. Your internet is your most important marketing tactic. It's even more important in the post-COVID environment, which is that's my next month. I've revised that entire thing. I'll tell you about that. Have a Zoom room. Do you have a Zoom room? I heard that on one of the webinars I attended, and I love that line, the Zoom room. Even though I don't use Zoom, I use GoToWebinars and GoToMeetings. But it's a Zoom room. It's a room where people can gather. Did you know that, don't you like going on webinars now and seeing people's houses? You can see their houses. Some of them you can say, I wouldn't live there. And some of them you say, boy, would I like to live. Right? You see, your eyes, your senses. Do you have a Zoom room? When you go, you should have a Zoom room to get your clients, your customers, your website. Do you have Zoom rooms on your website specifically for clients to gather and talk and discuss? If you can't go to them anymore, you have to get them to come to you. Not on social media. You can use social media to get them to come, but they have to come to your website. Your website is the single most important marketing tactic. Email blasts, use social media, and for heaven's sakes, use SEO. Inspire people. Do a white paper. Post something you've done. Do a problem solution. Whatever. Don't stop talking. You know why? Here's a secret. Google reads everything. I didn't want to say that too loud, so let me say it again. Google reads everything. Because I don't know if Google's listening. But they read everything. They read your content. They read your picture. They can't see a picture, so they read whatever caption you put with the picture. The more you do, the more you are likely to be on page one. And you can do social media, but here's a tip. Do more listening than you do talking. Social media is absolutely not good. It's not good because you don't know if it's true or not, right? Even with the little blue check mark on Twitter. And quite frankly, Jim, what should we do in a COVID-19 environment? Whatever I tell you, whatever anyone tells you is as good as what you already know. Let me repeat that. Nobody knows. Nobody really knows, but except for this one fact. You have to do something. You have to move. You have to keep moving. You have to find something that works and then hammer it, ladies and gentlemen, because it's not going to come to you anymore. It's not going to do you any good to sit back and wait for business to come to you. So do a video. Do another video. I never would turn my courses into webinars that you can hear after because I like live presentations. I like the interaction. I like seeing people in the audience. I like people saying, I'm tired, and they leave the room. And sometimes I can see that and get into a little discussion, right? But, right? You have to, I'm recording everything now. If you go on our website, all of the ones I just did are posted on there. You can get the credit if you missed it. Why? Because it's COVID-19 and I have to adapt. I want to share the knowledge. Staying in front with PR. This was great. Let's go to a school, present to a school. Let's sponsor. If everything is shut down, what do? You do it. These things don't cut it anymore. What you have to do is you have to do it on the internet. Lady across the street is a teacher. She goes to school every day. Her kids are learning online, so she has her parents come over. Very difficult environment. I have a client in New York who has, fortunately, he can stay at home because his wife works with the children who are learning online. Online learning. Do you know the damage that's causing to the children? If you have any concept, change the damage. Change it. Go online, start talking to people. How can I help you? What can I do as a designer, as an architect, to bring in conversation, to have people understand that this is a society that is not going to just stop. Sports are starting to open up, right? Do routine publicity. Don't stop. I'm going to share this slide with you. This is one of Accountability Information Management, which is one of the primary research companies for B2B information. I want you to take a moment to look at this. This is one of their latest findings on due to the COVID, how building professionals are using online resources to get information, right? Before the pandemic, what was your preferred method for getting information from manufacturers? I want you to just pause for a moment and look at the top one. visiting manufacturers' websites. It used to be 67, now it's 82. Ladies and gentlemen, 8 out of 10 people want to come to your website for information. 8 out of 10! I mean, 7 out of 10 was good, but now it's 8 out of 10, right? Look at the bottom, industry trade shows. The virus has devastated. They just closed last week, Friday, NKBA. In March, when they said they're still going to have it and they invited me to speak, I speak there, for the last 7 years. I thought about it and I said, I can't do it this year. Not because of fear, but because no matter what they told me about they're going to have it, they're going to have it, they're going to have it, I knew they wouldn't have it because they would succumb to fear. It would be cost prohibitive to open that up. And quite frankly, who the hell wants to walk around for 3 days in a mask? Seriously, think about it. When I can do these online presentations, and that's what they're turning it into, is a virtual event, which is great, right? But it's not the same thing. Do you know, I met some of the people in the audience at KBIS that are in the audience today. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful experience where you see people, you hear people, you see people reacting to you. Well, guess what? I'm going to do whatever I have to do to keep that up, but I'll do it virtually. Okay? Inspire people. Do something for the community. Selling the Why and Why It Ain't So is an interesting blog I did on Simon Simek's, Selling the Why. I'm sure some of you heard of him, right? Well, selling the why because of the virus, who cares? Nobody cares about your why. You have to make them care. You have to do it. It has to be in your voice, in your expression, in your website, on your website. You have to do that, right? So if you Google selling the why, I'm very happy to report that I'm on page 1, number 3. Isn't that nice? Right behind them. We're closing in and I wanted to get to some questions. You are the channel. Forget media outlets. I know there's probably some media outlets in the audience. You are the channel. Pre-COVID, you always were the channel, except media outlets couldn't stand to tell you that. Most people want to come to your website for your information, right? You use media channels to get you to their website. But guess what? Those media channels, those media outlets, they're dying on the vine, right? Who watches commercials anymore on television? You DVR all your programs and go through it. I was watching an Amazon series the other day and they start sticking commercials in there and I think I'm going to drop watching it with my wife. Why would I want to watch commercials on Amazon's Prime, right? You are the channel. You are the channel. Okay? Differentiate yourself. Look around, ask questions. Do what you do in terms of your own expertise and find out what people really, really want. Well, Jim, they don't want anything. Well, sure they do. They're just too afraid to ask for it. And remember, this only lasts a moment. Staying in front of your customers means you cross-sell, always be closing, listening for opportunity. And even if you hear an opportunity for another business, one of the threads in everything we've researched since March, one of the threads is collaboration. Should I repeat that? Collaboration. That's a 5-syllable word. Collaboration. Collaboration means outside your own industry. Outside your own industry. I had an email from a friend architect the other day, and he said another architect is approaching him because he wants to collaborate, right? They want to collaborate. My friend had a feeling that there was business is difficult. Well, no kidding, right? So he said, what are your views on collaboration? My views on collaboration are simple, right? You gain something and lose something on a chess move. You gain something and lose something. The object of the game in chess is to gain more than you lose until you can launch a successful attack on the king. So in collaboration, you will always gain something and you will always lose something. So when you collaborate, look at the long-term investment of collaboration and say, what's the end result? Will we both gain? Will I lose? Will he lose? You look at it that way. But you should collaborate. And that means if somebody's asking you for something you can't do, as was asked of us this morning, find a way to do it. Find another company to collaborate to get it done. Do something, because that, ladies and gentlemen, is the opportunity. Know who you are. Determine your value. He who has a thing to sell and goes and whispers in a well is not. So I'm hollering, ladies and gentlemen, but sometimes nobody's listening because it's not what you put in front of people, but it's when and how much and how often. That's the key. Take the mask off. Take the mask off, especially if you're doing it digitally. When you're in public and go outside. The governor of California just issued a law. He's trying to enforce this law that you have to, between bites of your food at a restaurant, you have to put your mask on. I'm serious. And I found out yesterday that that's the rule in Chicago. I grew up in Chicago. I never go to Chicago. I live on the outskirts. Why would you do that? And some people are going to say, well, to protect the waitress. No. Why would you do that? Let's use our common sense. Let's protect ourselves. Let's be safe, but let's do some business. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. I've got 5 minutes for questions. Okay, what do we got? Wendy, good to see you. Good to see you. Let's go to the question page. We have to be even more customer service focused than ever before for everything. Wendy, bravo. Wendy's a architect in state of Hawaii. Thank you for coming today, Wendy. It's great to see you. We collaborated. She's in one of my posts. She's been on my webinars before. I want to repeat what she said. We have to do more customer service focused than ever before. How many people have still automated attendance on the phone during the day? How many people go to lunch and put it on automated attendant? You see, people want to talk to people. Customer service is human to human contact. You cannot automate human to digital marketing. Digital marketing, we got to have scalability. We got to hit three. Okay, here's the story. I had a publisher who did an email deployment of 3,000 records. He emailed a message to 3,000 people. He got 600 returns. That's 20%. 600. He was telling me that. I said, boy, that's a lot. And if you know anything about email lists or mail lists, you know that this virus, it's not just the virus, they atrophy 1% a week. Before COVID, lists would change 1% a week. That's a fact, right? Email lists change even more than that. People move. And when you add this scum virus onto it, they're moving all the time. They're not there anymore, right? He had 600 bounces. You know what he said he's going to do? He's going to keep them on the file. I said, why would you do that? He said, because I'll lose revenue if I drop the 600 and people don't think, I have that number of quantity. Ladies and gentlemen, that's happening everywhere. You have to not only be careful before the virus what you were buying, you have to be even more careful now what you're buying. The only way you really know, Wendy, is customer service. You have to touch the client virtually, digitally, right? Or physically. You have to see it, right? Doubting Thomases. That's what we have to be. Great question. Great question. Anyone else? Let's go through. Oh, there's one. Hold on. The question is basically, what are you really, really recommending that we do? That's a great question, right? Right? From Mark. What am I really, really, really recommending you do? What I'm really, really, really recommending you do is anything. Do something. Don't be a victim of somebody's, point of view about what this thing means. You have to define it. You do. As leaders of your company, when you're leading a company, you set the tone. If you work at a company, help them set the right tone, but set the tone. Never, ever, ever give up. I don't see any other questions. I must have did a good job. I always say that. Okay, I have 3 questions for you, but I'm not going to deal with it because I don't want to waste your time. I have a minute. Here we go. There's my email address. Some of you know that. There's my phone number. If you want those guides that I was telling you about that the architect recommended, go to interlinegroup.com/evaluate. I'll send them to you. Fill that out. That's a little review of today's session. If you want to see more courses that I've done, thecontinuingarchitect.com. Those are recordings. Or you can go online here at our website, and all of those have been recorded, including some of the ones where I really got into it with some of the attendees. I'm kidding. Next month, November 10th, how information is spread. I chose that word very carefully. The spread. How information is spread in the COVID-19 world. Very important, okay? So this is based on accountability information research on how people are finding and using information. I think you'll find it very, very good, so hopefully I'll see you in the room. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Enjoy your day. Keep moving. Remember, you define. You can't control what happens, right? You can only control your response to what happens. That's all you can do. And that's all any of us can do. And that's all I'm trying to do by doing these webinars. Thank you so much for your time.